6 on screen.
Right. Good evening, members. Welcome to the Executive on the 6th of December. Okay, let's start. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Rebecca Jennings-Evans has sent her apologies.
Thank you. Okay. And members of the Executive, are you happy for me to sign the minutes from the 15th of November? Do we have any declarations of interest, either from members of the Executive or members joining us virtually, on any of the three items that we're discussing? Councillor White.
That's okay. It's in exempt items.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, good. Item 4, questions by members. Do any members have questions for me as leader or any of the portfolio holders about any of the issues discussed tonight or any other issues? No? Okay, thank you. Right, so we'll go into our only item that is in part 1 this evening, calculation and setting of the council tax base for the next fiscal year. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Leader. Good evening, everybody.
Leader, if I may, I didn't hear that. Have you got the audio system switched on?
Hang on a second, Councillor Tapper. We may have a technical issue. We're just going to check.
And mine, so maybe other members. Yeah.
Mine's on.
Okay, so there are some microphones that are working and some that aren't. So we're just going to take a moment to do a technical fix, which I understand is we're going to switch them off and switch them back on again.
The Microsoft solution.
How's that? Can you hear me now? Graham, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Whilst we paused, can we double check that the recording for the public is working this time as well, please?
Certainly, Councillor Wheeler, we will do. Unfortunately, she's only got one pair of hands, so we'll have to get to that in a second. Oh, here comes the cavalry. Hang on. Yeah, we've confirmed the recording is working for the public, Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. That will greatly assist my inbox.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Perry, let's go again. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I'll start again. So as members are aware, it's a legal requirement for the Executive and Council to agree the number of properties that will be used to calculate council tax receipts for its next annual budget. The report we're looking at today is asking us to note the details of the background numbers that have been used to arrive at the numbers that will be used in the financial year 2023-24. You'll note that it is estimated that we will have 39,613 Band D equivalent properties that will be liable to pay council tax in the year 23-24, and that's an increase of 637 over the current year. The report also recommends that the income bands used to calculate entitlement to council tax support be uprated by 10% rounded to the nearest 99p. It also recommends that the empty house premium remains at the maximum permitted level as detailed in the report, and that the council tax exceptional hardship policy is recommended to remain unchanged for 23-24 with a budget of £80,000. The report provides the detailed breakdown of all the numbers backing up those headline figures. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. I've got a question, but Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Chair. Just in regard to the exceptional hardship policy and the fund, I don't particularly have any proposals that I want to make about amending the fund, amending the policy, but I do think the community support group should actually look at that before that is definitely just agreed, because clearly there has been exceptional hardship, particularly over last year. We made some quite big changes, I believe, last year, and I think it's just sensible for a group of councillors just to quickly check whether any changes are necessary. It may be that none are needed, but I think rather than just waving that through, I think we should just double check on that. And similarly, can I ask how much money from the hardship fund for this year has actually been allocated? It's being proposed the same amount. Again, I'm not particularly questioning that, but I just want to know how much has been spent so far.
Yes, the year before last, about 50,000, just over 50,000 withdrawn. This year, I think it's less than 20,000 so far. So we think the 80,000 should be sufficient to meet any demand.
I had a conversation with finance. I'll come back to you, Councillor Bates, in a second. I'll give you the last chance. And just, I wanted to check two things. One was that the 80,000 was enough, or did we need to increase it? I was surprised that it was less, but I'm led to understand that's a timing issue more than a lack of demand. So I fully expect it to be at least what it was last year, and the 80,000 I was assured more than covered expected demand. And the truth is, if it is not, I'd like it to come back to the executive. We'll look at making it larger anyway. So I don't think there's a delay there. And the other thing was that, Councillor Bates, you know that we spent a lot of time looking at the support system, and we revamped it quite a lot. It had been a long time since we'd looked at it. And at your prompting, I think if I remember correctly, we had a look at it as a community group. And I asked for feedback that we had received anything negative at all from any recipients or anyone who'd been hard done by. And I was told that we had received one where somebody had queried whether they got the amount or not. And in fact, they were covered by the 12-month safety net that we put in anyway. So I'm afraid I disagree. I think actually that the scheme is working, and I wouldn't want to delay a paper on the basis we go around and have a look at it. I'm convinced that the programme that you and I and Councillor Garrett, etc., Councillor Whitcroft came up with, I think is working very well. Okay. I'll just go back to, you want to switch off your microphone, Councillor Perry? I'll just go back to Councillor Bates for his comment.
Thank you. I mean, firstly, all I'm asking is that the community support group actually look at that and just confirm whether there is any change. It isn't going to delay anything because we're only talking about April of 2023 anyway, so it doesn't impact in any way the shape of the paper, and any changes can in fact be made up until the February budget meeting anyway. So I can't see any reason why we just don't ask at the next community support working group that we just double check that. You know, it may be that there is no change, in which case fine, but just at this time, which is very difficult, I think we can all agree on that. We just should be reassuring ourselves, even if there are no changes. The question about how much money is spent slightly surprised me because when we had the external partnerships meeting last week, I asked the same question to the CAB, who said it was, and I'll double check it just to make sure I've not misunderstood this. Maybe they're talking about a different hardship fund, but I was referring to this one. And the suggestion was that we had in fact spent most of that. Now, what we've just heard is different. So I think that is a little bit confusing to me anyway. Maybe other members it's a bit clearer. But I do agree with you that I would expect the executive to relook at this should we need to. In fact, you may remember that there was an amendment made last year that said that once it got to a certain level, that it would automatically come back. I'm sure that you probably remember that was actually put in. So I know it hasn't come back yet, but I guess I think there is common ground that we do want to make sure that the genuine hardship that there is covered. I suspect 80,000 is sufficient, but I think again we should just be double checking on that going forward, and just reassuring ourselves that the CAB are not getting any barriers. I guess that's my concern about it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a second, Councillor Bates. Are there any other questions for Councillor Perry? Yes, Councillor Whitcroft.
Yeah, just picking up on Councillor Bates's previous comment about checking that out. Obviously, we did sit down last year, and I think at the time what we came up with was excellent. How would you mind just telling me, please, if it was to be checked out in the way that Councillor Bates is suggesting, what sort of delay? What is the harm, if you like, in taking the time out just to have another look at that?
I think the issue for me is that we could decide this paper, including the 80,000 and the scheme as is right now, or we'd have to amend the paper to put a break in, wait for the community group to review it, get their feedback, and then the paper would come back and we'd do it again. I think I'm more inclined to pass the paper as is, with the understanding that the community working group will actually review the scheme, and if they've got any recommendations, then they can come back to a future executive and we'll look to incorporate them. It's about just moving forward, making progress and keeping the papers moving, to be honest, Councillor Whitcroft. I think that's the more important thing. The officers can get on with it rather than building in delays, that's all. Okay.
Can I come back?
Yeah, sure.
I get where you're coming from. I'm struggling a little bit with perhaps the implication that speed, if you like, is better than haste. I just think that it's going to be much easier to go ahead to check this out first and to proceed with it, come back and proceed with it, than it is to do it tonight, do it wrong and have to put it back. And we're not talking about any significant changes. We're not necessarily saying that we believe there should be any changes at all. What I think we're saying, and I think Councillor Bates is saying from listening to him, is that we simply want to check. We simply want to make sure that everybody is happy with it. It's as simple as that. And it's not, I appreciate that the paper has to be changed, but, it's minor. If the changes to the, to the arrangement is as we think it is, it's going to be minor, but this way we know it's right and we're not taking the risks of getting it wrong and people obviously going without.
Okay, there's a couple of issues there. One is that the community group would advise the executive, so it wouldn't be a final decision anyway. The executive would still have to decide whether it wanted to incorporate the changes or not. Okay, and I can't underestimate that local authorities have a reputation for moving at quite a slow pace. This executive and this council is trying to battle that, and one of the ways we do that is we keep papers moving. I don't think there's much difference between agreeing the paper this evening. The committee can meet, they can make whatever recommendations. If there are no recommendations, the paper was passed. If there are, they will come back to the executive. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? No, Councillor Perry?
It's important that the main tax base issue goes, because that's the building block of the main budget, goes ahead. This is a specific standalone element that could be excluded from the paper tonight and brought back if you need to. The exceptional hardship thing, it'd be another way around it.
So you'd be happy to see it taken out then?
Just that one clause.
Okay. All right. Well, it's Councillor Perry's paper. All right. right? And he's happy to see it, that element excluded from this paper this evening, all right? And we'll have the working group meet and check that out and then come back and see if they want to make any recommendations. And we'll have the paper come back again for that particular bit of the element, okay? All right, are there any other questions? Okay, all right. So, looking at the recommendation, so members of the executive were advised to resolve small 1, calculation of the tax base, small 2, in accordance with local authorities calculation, and band D properties, small 3, the income bands for the calculation of entitlement be uprated to 10%, rounded to the nearest 99p. And the executive is advised to recommend to full council, with effect from the 1st of April, the empty homes premium remains at that level. And then we're taking out small 2 for it to be reviewed by the community support working group. Okay. Are we agreed? Okay. Right, we are, that's the end of part 1. So we're now going to move to part 2 with the exclusion of press and public. If anyone did join me or join the executive meeting, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.